Hello, clever people, and welcome to my review for Going in Style. So Going in Style stars Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, and Alan Arkin, and it basically follows these three guys who are reaching old age and are starting to become concerned about their economical status. They want to be able to pay for their houses until they pass away. Unfortunately, the banks are being very mean to them, so they decide to try to get payback by robbing a bank, the three of them, and it's about all the difficulties that come, and three old men who have a hard time getting up after sitting down, trying to rob a bank. I had really no expectations for this movie going in. I knew it was directed by Zach Braff, who had made Green State, I believe is the name of the movie, and he made Wish You Were Here, so he had made some mediocre films in the past. He was making this one. It had some really good stars in it, so that's part of the reason I thought, oh, maybe this could be decent, because it has Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, Alan Arkin. These three guys are Academy Award winners for good reasons. They are all very, very good actors, and it's nice to see them do, sometimes more lighthearted film opposed to their very dark material that they usually do. However, the trailers just sort of looked mediocre, reviews weren't so great, so I went in basically expecting to get a 5 out of 10 movie, and I went out with something just a tad worse. Going in Style is not an awful movie, it's a bad one. Practically the main thing that a comedy should do is have comedic moments, make you laugh. And Going in Style does have a few of those. I will admit, there were a few moments in this film that I chuckled, that I laughed. There were a few, honestly, funny moments in the movie. And I'm not the type of person who typically laughs really hard in comedies. I rarely ever let out a laugh in a comedy, even a comedy that I love. And in this one, I did laugh a couple times, so I guess that is worth something. However, a lot of the comedy in this film is very weak. The issue is that about, I'd say, 30 to 40% of the comedy is look how old we are jokes. Because these three guys are all reaching older age. Morgan Freeman is like 70, I think Alan Arkin is too. Michael Caine might be 80 or something. The three of them are very, very old. So they make a lot of jokes about their age, and honestly, a lot of them don't work. For example, I'm going to go through one of the scenes. It might sound like nitpicks, but I'm going to go through the opening scene and explain why a lot of these, look how old we are jokes don't make a lot of sense. One of them is that Michael Caine goes into the building and gets a little thing that buzzes whenever he is ready to talk to a banker. However, he acts like he doesn't know what this is, but why would he not know what it is if he had gone to that bank just at least a month ago, which I believe he mentions that he has? They then lead to a scene where he sits down and has a hard time getting back up, but the issue is, he has a hard time getting back up, but that never comes throughout the rest of the movie. Whenever he gets up out of a chair, it's just gradual and normal. He doesn't have to lean back and forth to get up, and why did they even include that in the first scene if they weren't going to continue with it throughout the rest of the movie? A lot of these jokes are just a lot more confusing than funny, and that is something that definitely hurts the movie, because that makes a lot of the scenes feel longer than they should. A lot of this film tends to meander. There is a lot of filler in this movie, because honestly, this is a very simple premise. This is the type of premise that could make a 20 or 30 minute short film. However, when stretched across an hour and 30 minutes, it feels a bit weak, and you definitely needed some filler in there, and the filler that they implement did not really do much, and it actually felt like a lot of meandering. Now let's talk about the three leads in the movie. I mentioned they're Academy Award winners, they're legends, they've all done phenomenal performances before. So how are they in this movie? A lot of people had said that they're the shining part of this movie, and while I don't quite agree with that, I thought that they were fine for the most part. A lot of the times they looked bored, a lot of the times they didn't really seem into what they were doing, but when they did, when they actually cared, you could tell, and it actually made for quite entertaining moments at a lot of parts. For one, the three of them definitely have really good chemistry with each other. They work really well. Even in the parts where they seem bored and they don't seem like they're really interested in what they're doing, you can still tell that they have good chemistry with each other, and they still have good banter back and forth. It's just occasionally they seemed a bit bored. An issue structurally with the movie is how it has its three-act structure. The second act in the movie feels like it's about 3 to 5 minutes long. And it shouldn't have felt like that. I understand that the actual bank robbing isn't supposed to last 20 to 30 minutes because it's not supposed to be like that. However, when they get to the second act of the movie, it all feels very rushed and very quick, and that leads it so that the third act feels like they're two separate acts, so you have a third and a fourth. And this made for a really huge structural flaw. The first act of it felt normally paced for quite a bit of it, and then when it gets into the second act, it was too short, rushed over, and then it just sort of falls apart from there, and it made for an oddly balanced movie that was a bit hard to get into. Now, my biggest issue with the movie comes with the score. So look, score, I believe, is a huge part to a movie. Even if there isn't a score, it's still important. Because you need to know, why is there no score here? Why would you have it so that this scene has complete silence when the characters aren't talking? And then when it comes to having an actual score, you need to think about the different parts of it. Why would this part in the movie have score that implies this sort of tone? Why would you have it so that you have very dramatic music at this point? Oftentimes, in great movies, you have scores that blend perfectly with what's going on. They aren't at the forefront, they aren't all the way back so that you can barely hear them. They're in there, but they blend perfectly. And even when a movie has music that is at the forefront, such as The Godfather, they implement it in transitions in between scenes. When they implement it in when characters aren't talking and it's supposed to be this big, powerful moment. And when their characters are talking, they have it go in the background very lightly. The issue with going in style is the score and the way that it's implemented. First off, think of any TV show you've ever seen that is a thriller. Think of NCIS. Take that score, now think of any dramatic TV show you've seen, take that score, and take any sitcom that you've ever seen, take that score, and put them in at places that don't fit, and that's what you get with going with style. A lot of this movie sounded like it was straight from a sitcom. And when it's put in there, it completely throws off the balance, completely throws off the tone, completely throws off everything that's happening in the movie. You can have a super intense scene that has some sort of comedic music that completely ruins the tone and sort of makes everything feel like it has no weight or levity. I understand, it's a comedy, it doesn't need to have a lot of weight, but when you completely get rid of that, there are no stakes in the movie, there's nothing interesting going on. It's literally just the scenes being played out on screen. And finally, going in style is very forgettable. This movie does nothing big. It has 3 big actors, but besides that, it does nothing else. It does nothing to be remembered, nothing to be memorable, and honestly, Going in Style is just a disposable flick that comes out. It has an awful score, and I will remember how terribly the score is implemented, but besides that, I will not remember practically anything else about this movie. It is a bad movie. It's not awful or extremely terrible. It is just a bad movie. There's no other word to really put it, and that is why I will give Going in Style a 4 out of 10. If it wasn't for the 3 leads' chemistry and occasional good acting, and for the brief funny moments, I would say that this film would probably be one of the worst films of the year, but thanks to the 3 of those, it helped save this meandering, terribly scored film. Alright, that concludes my review for Going in Style. What are your thoughts on this film? Comment in the comment section below, and let me know. I'm Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.